Okay, so the VII is the egg nucleus. Egg nucleus. You can also say it's the ovum. Ovum. You can also say it's the female gamete. Okay, so either the egg nucleus, the ovum, or the female gamete. Then the VII, the VI is appearing twice, but the second one should be VIII. And that is a micropower. Micropower. The IX is the pollen tube. Pollen tube nucleus, or you call it the vegetative nucleus. Or it's a pollen tube nucleus. And then the last one, X, is the male gamete. Male gamete. So those are the label parts. The BI says should name the biological process illustrated in the figure above. As we start, when we started solving the question, I told you that the diagram there represents the process of what? Fertilization. So the biological process illustrated is what? Fertilization. So fertilization in flowering plants. Now the ISA's issue, describe the biological process. The biological process. So you are describing the process of fertilization. Process of fertilization. So first one, when pollen grain, that means when a matured pollen grain falls on the stigma of a flower, it absorbs water and nutrients and swells up. So that's the first thing that happens. When the pollen grains lands on the stigma, it absorbs nutrients and water from the stigma. In the process, because it's absorbing water, it swells up. It swells up. And then you also have the pollen grain nucleus divides into divides into the vegetative, which you call the pollen tube nucleus, and the generative nucleus, which also later divides into two more gametes. So the two more gametes you see in the diagram is coming from the division of the generative nucleus. So there's a first division of the pollen grain nucleus into the vegetative nucleus, which we also call the pollen tube nucleus, and then the generative nucleus. The generative nucleus also further divides into two to form the two male gametes. The two male gametes. Or we can also say the two male nuclei. Two male nuclei. And then during the swelling, the pollen grain breaks open, and then the pollen tube comes out of it, or protrudes out of it. So you have the pollen grain, breaks open to and pollen tube protrudes from it. Through the stigma and the star towards the ovary. So the pollen grain breaks open and the pollen tube is released, and this pollen tube grows through the stigma, through the star, and then it grows towards the ovary. If you see from the diagram, you realize that the pollen tube nucleus actually leads the male gametes. Okay. So the pollen tube nucleus directs the movement of the two male gametes. As the pollen tube reaches the ovary, it passes through the macropyle and enters into the embryo sac. And once it enters into the embryo sac, you see that the pollen tube nucleus will disappear to release the two male gametes. And then one of the gametes, the male gametes, will fuse with the egg nucleus and then to form the zygote. And the other male gamete will fuse with the polar nuclei to form the endospine. You see, within the embryo sac, you have the VII labeled as the egg nucleus. Above the egg nucleus, you also have two smaller cells in there. This one is what we call the polar nuclei. The polar nuclei. So one of the gametes, male gametes, will fuse with the egg nucleus to form the zygote. The other one fuses with the polar nuclei to form the endosperm. So the pollen tube nucleus disappears to form to release the male gametes. One of the male gametes fuses with the egg nucleus to form the zygote. Or we say embryo. The zygote develops into the embryo. And the other male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei to form the endosperm. Okay, so this is the entire process of fertilization in flowering plants. There is a C part of the question. The last part of the question, that C. I want to squeeze it here. Transfer. C. It says what happens. State what happens to each of the parts labeled I, V, and VI. So the part labeled I, after fertilization, what happens to the star? So the star, it withers and disappears. So it withers. It dries off and then disappears or fall. So it withers and disappears. And then for V, that is the ovary. The ovary is what develops into the fruit. So it develops into the fruit. And then VI. The VI is the ovule or the embryo sac. That's what develops into the seeds. So it develops into the seed. Okay, so the star and the other parts, the stigma, all of it will wither and disappear. The ovule will develop into the fruit, and then the ovule will develop into the seed. This brings us to the end of question 27. And for that matter, it brings us to the end of the selected questions we are looking at under core biology practicals. In our next session, we're going to start looking at practical questions under Agric. That is our last set of practical questions we'll be looking at. So the selected questions we'll be going through, I'll load them onto the school WhatsApp page. Some of the questions have been solved. So the ones that have not been solved are the ones that we'll look at in class. Until we meet again, enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.